All right, so I'm going to show you how I write my movement alphabet. So we're just going to and again, my penmanship, my orthography is certainly not perfect, but we do what we can. We do our best, and ultimately, there's not a right way to draw these symbols. It's just a matter of having them accurate enough so that no one can mistake them for another concept. So we'll start with stillness, and in order to make sure my V looks reasonable, I'll often start my V at the point. And then we have our any action, and we want to keep in mind that anytime we see this tilde, sometimes it will be vertical, sometimes it will be horizontal, it means any. So if I'm going to have any form of something, I need to have this any symbol, this little tilde. So if we put it on the horizon, then we might have any pathway. And if I put it within an extension symbol, we have any extension, any flexion, and then these concepts are fixed length, and so you want to make sure that they are about the same width as each other and about the same width as our stillness symbol. So we also then will eventually add an action stroke to show duration. So you'll start to see it look like that. Okay, so then the next, the other symbols that use our any is our direction. So we put this rectangle. This rectangle stands for place, and from it you would have all of your options for directions within that rectangle, but this is the symbol for place, and if I have my tilde across there, then I have any direction. So we can start to think about, again, the width is going to be about the same, ideally, with all of these symbols, so none of them get too wide. Next, we have our rotation. Now, rotation is an interesting symbol because it really doesn't, for a lot of people, feel like it's turning or rotating because it's symmetrical and it's stable. But the reason why it is designed the way it is because it is, again, a composite outline of different options for turning, so, or rotating, both sagittally, horizontally, and vertically, so cartwheeling. So, but one way that people do like to remember this is they like to think of it looking like a ribbon, and a ribbon twirls. So that's one of the mnemonics that people use. I think balance and falling are pretty straightforward in terms of their mnemonic potential, right? They're one of the most straightforward visual representations of a movement concept. So those are at least clear and easy. When I draw my springing symbol, I want to make sure that my air strokes do not cross my action strokes on either side. So sometimes I'll draw them first, and that helps me work with that design. And then I have change of support, And again, the width of this can vary depending on the relative length of the action stroke and the width of the symbol as a whole. But as we are moving through our movement alphabet, we want to start to find some kinships. So here we have a support bow, and support is actually an element of relating. And so this angle here is represented. This is the part that is support, and this is the part that's contact, and there are other symbols hidden in here. So again, the composite element is interesting when you learn more of these concepts. And then we have our shape, and sometimes I will draw my little dots first and make my diamond and then do my horizontal line, because I'm not very good at doing it in one go. But this is our still shape, and the diamond itself is actually the indication of space, and then we have 3 dimensions indicated with this horizontal line. So that's 3-dimensional space means shape, and it does look like a diamond or a form. So that's nice, a nice visual. Next we have these 2 pairing symbols, and it's motion toward and motion away, and it's anything can be in here. So you would replace this any symbol with whatever the given object is. It could be a person, it could be a direction in space, it could be a prop, an area of the room. Lots of things can go inside of here. Toward gets bigger, away gets smaller. So they're actually based on the crescendo and decrescendo designs, and from music, turned on its side. So you can kind of think of that. And then we have, but both of these concepts, they're considered motion concepts. And one of the concepts we didn't cover, or isn't covered in the beginning of your move, is this concept of motion. So this is an extra symbol, a new symbol, but it encapsulates these ideas, and so we've started as an LODC, we've started to put that within the movement alphabet because we feel so strongly that it is a sort of grandparent symbol or concept. It contrasts with the idea of destination. So destination differs from any action because there is this small space between the action stroke, and there's a linking bow that says this action, this specific action, leads to somewhere specific. Of course, it's any right now, but it could be a shape, it could be a location, it could be a direction, and so on. So here we have it. We have our movement alphabet, and we have a couple mnemonics. Sometimes I'll think about, I'm just going to go through, sometimes, we call this the alien or the TV set, how you're completely still when you are watching the boob tube, which is kind of funny. This any action, again, this tilde is going to be your cue. Any pathway, so sometimes this symbol for traveling is also called any pathway, with the idea that you're always traveling on a pathway. And so if I'm going to be specific there, I can indicate that. This extension symbol should connect. This extension symbol, sometimes I'll use the idea of billows or an accordion being stretched open here. And then I think of the arrows pointing inward on this flexion. So sometimes I like to indicate that these arrows are going out versus arrows coming in to the center. So anyway, it's just some mnemonics that I've done at different times, trying to get people to. These I think are very commonly swapped in people's memory. And then we have our any direction. And if you look again, I'll just put these notes over here. So with any direction, I could start with my forward direction. And if I put on top of that forward direction, I put a backward direction. You can start to see, and then I put my side direction on top of that, my side direction. And you can see I start to overlap. They all exist within this rectangle idea. And so, so if we erase everything out of the center, and then we put our tilde, that's how that symbol is organized. Similarly for rotation, I have my rotation idea, but if I draw in, that's now turning, and you can see that it's the right turn over the left turn symbol. And we have other ideas like somersault. We can put somersault in there, and cartwheel, and all sorts of things. So when you erase these details from the inside, and they become these silhouettes. Springing, on the ground, off the ground, on the ground, change of support. We're going to cover this in the OPDI course, so I think that'll be interesting. Relating, shape, motion toward. So if we read from the bottom, we think about this getting bigger, 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 bigger. It just as if we were looking through a camera, it would get bigger, 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 bigger as we got closer to our object. Or if we went away from our object would get smaller, 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 smaller. So that's one thing I like to recommend to my students, is always look at the progression of, is it getting bigger or is it getting smaller? So those are just a couple things. Hopefully that will help with the mnemonic and give you an idea of how I write my movement concepts, to try to keep them as square and vertical as possible. Now, this is on a plain paper. I also like to use dotted paper whenever possible, to make it as clear as possible for myself and for my reader. So there you go, movement alphabet. Thanks.